I'm not bringing your child along. He'll ruin my whole vehicle. Step out, Ellie screamed, pushing Miles and me aside. She nearly hurled us onto the roadside inches from the zooming cars. My spouse, Jason, remained seated, facing away without uttering a single sound. That evening, upon their eventual arrival home, a shocking scene would leave them paralyzed in shock. Simone Dixon stirred awake at 6:30 a.m. to the persistent drip from the kitchen tap. Beyond her two-bedroom flat in downtown, dawn was barely breaking. She extended her arm toward the vacant spot beside her. Jason had departed earlier for the factory. As a repairman, he rotated through multiple shifts and had pulled the morning slot this time. From the children's bedroom, faint rustles and soft voices emerged. Her 6-year-old Miles was up and tinkering with his builder kit. The boy had picked up her passion for precise engineering and could occupy himself for ages piecing together intricate robot or spaceship designs. Simone rose, slipped into her bathrobe, and headed to the kitchen. The place had come to her from her grandmother Rosa 3 years prior. The elderly lady had dedicated her career as a mathematics instructor at a nearby tech college and somehow afforded property smack in the urban core. Inheriting it brought Simone a sense of stability. At last, she and Miles possessed a genuine residence. She set the teapot to boil and peered into the fridge. A message from Jason rested inside. "Darling, I grabbed the sausages for my meal. Expect me back late. Mom needs aid shifting some pieces. Love, Jay." Simone's brow furrowed. Lately, her mother-in-law, Eleanor, had been claiming more and more of Jason's time. There was constantly an issue, hauling a bulky cabinet, mending a dripping pipe, or heading to her retreat to collect spuds. Jason couldn't refuse his mom, not even if it clashed with their couple's outings. "Mom, where's Dad Jason?" Miles inquired, padding into the kitchen with tousled locks and gripping a complete robot figure. "He's at his job, buddy. Fancy an egg dish." "Sure. Mind if I demonstrate the robot your cooking method?" Simone grinned. Miles enjoyed crafting tales around his robotic creations and chatting with them like actual companions. Following her split from his birth dad, the kid needed time to adjust to the fresh presence at home. Yet Jason stayed steadfast, gradually stepping into a paternal role for him. As her little one munched on his morning meal, Simone prepared for her shift. Instructing English at the upscale Hamilton Academy provided solid pay, far better than the state education setup. The principal appreciated her dedication and skill in managing tricky adolescents. The school hours unfolded routinely. Simone led 6 lessons, reviewed assignments, and lingered past 7 p.m. for a meeting with parents. Upon returning home at last, a lamp glowed, though silence prevailed. "Miles, I've returned," she announced, slipping off her footwear by the door. "Mom, we're in here," her boy replied from the lounge area. Simone entered to find Miles perched on the rug before the TV. Eleanor sat nearby. Her in-law sported her usual tan trouser outfit. Her coiffure remained fixed in its timeless fashion, unaltered over 15 years. "Hi, Simone." Eleanor offered a chilly welcome, eyes fixed on the display. "Evening, where's Jason?" "He's cleaning up. We spent the day relocating items. My son is worn out." The phrase "my son" sparked a spark of annoyance in Simone, but she held her tongue. Ellie frequently referred to her 30-year-old offspring like he was still a tween. "Mom, Grandma Ellie mentioned her cell died," Miles shared, transfixed by the animated show. "Yeah, can you believe it?" Her mother-in-law exhaled. "It quit on me entirely. Won't power up, and I rely on it for the job. The digital till. Operations depend on the software these days." Simone acknowledged with a nod and moved to the kitchen to warm the evening meal. Moments later, Jason emerged, post-shower in lounge attire and a casual top. "Hey, love." He planted a peck on her face. "How'd teaching go?" "Okay, but exhausting. How about the item shifting?" "Went smoothly. Mom aimed to reposition the armchair to the far side, so we tackled it from dawn." The trio shared supper. Ellie passed on eating, insisting on her weight loss regimen. Once the meal ended, the in-law departed for her own space, and Jason aided Miles in constructing a fresh plane replica. The following morning, Simone chose to launder Jason's coat, marked with grime from the prior day's labor. Before loading it into the washer, she inspected the pockets and sensed a rustle. She extracted a creased note and unfolded it. It turned out to be an invoice from the gadget shop for a cutting-edge phone costing $1,200. The transaction timestamp, the day before. Simone's stomach dropped. $100. That equaled their entire fund for Miles's seaside getaway in summer. Her child had anticipated that excursion for 6 months already. That evening, once Miles had settled as Simone prepared to turn in for the night, she presented the bill to Jason. "Where on earth did this come from?" Jason's cheeks turned red and he averted his gaze. "I planned to mention it to you about Mom. She desperately needed a new device for her job. The previous one was totally useless. She couldn't even log off after her shift. For $200, Jason, we could have gotten a reliable standard phone for just $600. She insisted on this model specifically. According to her, budget options fail quickly, but this should hold up for a minimum of 5 years. That was the cash set aside for Miles's trip. "I get it, sweetie, but Mom goes out of her way for us all the time. She looks after our boy when we're running behind. She handles meals on Saturdays and Sundays. She merits something special." Simone gazed at her spouse and realized debating it would get her nowhere. Jason invariably came up with excuses for whatever his mother did. And truth be told, Ellie did pitch in with Miles on occasion, even if she always behaved as though it was a massive imposition. "We'll make it to the beach without fail come next summer," Jason assured her. "I'll pick up overtime shifts." 7 days later, Simone linked up with her pal Naomi at a coffee spot close to the campus. They'd been friends since their university days, and Naomi ranked among the handful Simone could confide in. "You seem totally zoned out," her buddy observed while mixing sweetener into her latte. "Spill it. What's bothering you?" Simone recounted the story of the gadget and the scrapped getaway. Naomi paid close attention, then knitted her brows. "Hold on, have you heard what your mother-in-law spreads about you?" "What are you getting at?" "One of my neighbors shares a shift at the supermarket with her. Word is, Ellie gripes to anybody who'll listen that you're after money, that you got knocked up by some other guy to snag support payments, and then you snagged her boy in the process." Heat flooded Simone's cheeks. "She actually claims that." "Yep, and she adds that you lured him in with the place to live, that he wed you for the roof over your head, and now you're exploiting him. She insists the child isn't his biologically, calls you selfish, and says you're blocking her from getting funds from her own son." Simone remained still, gripping her mug tightly. It turned out, Ellie didn't just harbor resentment toward her. She was deliberately tarnishing her reputation among acquaintances, and had been at it systematically for quite a while. "Did you bring this up with Jason?" "I dropped subtle clues. He brushes it off. Claims Mom frets over him, so she occasionally says odd things." Back at the house, Simone attempted to broach the topic with her partner. "Jason, she's telling outsiders that Miles isn't yours, and I realize he's not yours by blood, but you treat him as if he is. Can't you see? She's turning folks against me." "Cut it out, Simone," Jason snapped, his tone sharpening. "You blow everything out of proportion. Mom's elderly and isolated. I'm all she's got. Are you seriously asking me to ditch her?" The discussion fizzled into nothing. Jason stepped out to the terrace for a cigarette, while Simone retired, feeling an overwhelming isolation. The next few weeks dragged on awkwardly. Jason began lingering longer at his mom's place, and upon returning, he'd be subdued and snappy. Simone threw herself into her job and caring for her little one, making an effort to sideline the household issues. On a particular Saturday a.m., Jason declared he was heading over to his mother's. Once more, Simone found herself probing. "We were hoping to head to the playground with Miles." "It's crucial stuff for Mom. She's eyeing a vehicle." "What kind of vehicle?" "Turns out she's set on purchasing one. The public transport wears her out." A chill of anxiety washed over Simone. And the funds for that. Her pay as a checkout clerk scrapes by at $2,000 monthly. She'll finance it. I'll cover the initial amount. Cover it how, Jason? We're tapped out. That phone wiped us clean. We'll manage somehow. More overtime for me. That following Monday, Simone stumbled upon the facts entirely by accident. Miles had fallen ill, so she visited the medical center for an excuse note. Waiting in front of her was a lady chattering away on her cell about financing and autos. "Get this," the lady was exclaiming. "My acquaintance just got a ride. She arranged the loan via the seller, and her boy put his name down as guarantor. She mentioned that should trouble arise, he's on the hook for payments." Simone's chest tightened. Could Jason have guaranteed his mother's debt behind her back? That evening, she pressed him head-on. Jason attempted to sidestep, but ultimately admitted it. "That's right, I signed on. So why the fuss? Mom's diligent. She'll clear the balance." Do you grasp that if she misses payments, it lands squarely on our shoulders? She won't miss any. She's always been dependable. Jason, this matters a lot. We needed to discuss it together. "Here we go again," Jason burst out. "Mom shouldered it all after Dad bailed. She earns this support even if it costs us. Who's not supposed to aid their folks?" Simone saw she was cornered. Her husband kept making choices solo, treating them as done deals, and Ellie kept prevailing, no matter the strain on their finances. A week on, a gleaming crimson pre-owned SUV rolled into their lot. Ellie had snagged a 5-year-old model in solid condition. The deal involved a $15,000 loan requiring $250 each month. "That's quite the ride," Simone conceded when her mother-in-law dropped by to flaunt her new acquisition. "Naturally it is," Ellie responded. She boasted with pride. "I've always wanted my very own vehicle. Now I won't need to cram onto the bus surrounded by all sorts of lowlifes." Miles eyed the automobile curiously. But when he requested to hop into the driver's spot, his grandma snapped a firm no. Kids had no business inside vehicles. They'd ruin or mess up something for sure. That same evening, Simone tallied up their household budget. The $250 monthly installment, on top of premiums, fuel, and upkeep, swallowed almost 50% of Jason's paycheck. Her ideas for fixing up the place and stashing away cash for a getaway got shelved for the foreseeable future. A few weeks on, Miles started facing issues. It kicked off with him griping about tummy pain right after his morning meal. Simone figured he was just dodging preschool and brushed it off. Yet come evening, the little guy took a turn for the worse. His temperature spiked, and the discomfort intensified. Overnight, he hardly rested, writhing in bed and letting out whimpers. Come dawn, Simone rang their family doctor. The seasoned elderly practitioner thoroughly checked the child, pressed on his belly, measured his temp at 101, 3-degree Warf, and auscultated his chest. "This seems like sudden appendicitis," she announced, slipping off her scope. "Head to the medical center without delay." "Got a ride?" "Nope," Simone answered. "Dial emergency services or find a lift then, straight to the surgery wing at Regional Children's Hospital. No time to waste." Simone ushered the doctor away and went back to her boy. Miles rested there, ashen-faced with shut eyes, his breaths faint and quick. "Mom, it aches," he murmured. "We're heading to the clinic right now, honey, and you'll start feeling okay." She phoned Jason down at the factory. His boss promised to pass along the word, though Jason remained stuck on duty till nightfall. Waiting for paramedics might drag on forever. The area hospital sat 30 miles beyond town limits. Hauling a suffering kid via public transit felt too hazardous. Just one choice remained: Ellie and her shiny new ride. Simone punched in her in-laws' contact, steeling herself for the uncomfortable chat. "Hi, Ellie. Simone here. Big trouble brewing." She laid out the crisis fast. A heavy quiet hung on the line's far side. "So what exactly do you expect from me?" the older woman queried at last. "Drive us over, please. Miles is really hurting. Why skip the ambulance?" The doc advised against hanging around. "We gotta move fast." More stillness. "All right," Ellie relented with clear reluctance. Give me 30 minutes, but keep everything spotless in there. I won't have the child messing up the upholstery. Simone swallowed a wave of irritation, but stayed mum. Priority one was reaching medical help. She hastily grabbed a sack with papers and fresh outfits for her son, then got Miles clothed. The kid could scarcely stay upright, slumping against her support. Right on the dot at half an hour, the crimson SUV rolled into the lot. Ellie stepped out and strode to the doorway, face twisted in distaste. Where's this invalid then? Simone guided Miles toward the road. Her husband's mom scrutinized the grandson with a skeptical gaze. He doesn't seem all that ill. Probably stuffed himself silly with frozen treats last night. The physician thinks it's appendicitis. These healers nowadays go overboard. They rush folks to urgent care over a simple cough, she grumbled, though she unlocked the doors regardless. Simone eased her son onto the rear bench and took position beside him. Ellie fired up the motor and eased away from the spot. Hands off everything, she cautioned, glancing back via the mirror. Brand new hide upholstery. Simone dipped her head, cradling Miles close. The child burned up from the heat and struggled for air. She yearned to arrive at the facility swiftly. The SUV inched along urban avenues. Ellie halted at each signal, yielded to every walker who could, and kept peeking at Miles through the reflection. No fogging the glass, she instructed him. I had it detailed fresh. Simone clenched her jaw. Each second lost might endanger her boy's well-being, all while the elder fretted over the auto's pristine state. Mind picking up the pace a bit, she ventured. I'm no speed demon. This ride costs a fortune. I handle it with care. Miles let out soft cries and hugged his mom harder. His complexion had gone ghostly, shadows pooling beneath his lids. They exited the urban sprawl and merged onto the expressway aiming for the district hospital. Simone tracked the distance signs. 12 miles yet to cover. Ellie poked along at under 60 mph despite the posted cap of 90. Abruptly, the vehicle decelerated and veered onto a rural lane. What's this detour? Simone fretted. Detouring to Estelle's place. She's a nursing pro and clued in on ailments. Let's get her take first. Ellie, the hospital's our destination. The doc stressed it's critical. These physicians slice into you for the tiniest twinge anymore. Estelle's got decades under her belt, 40 in the field. She'll sort out the right move. Simone could hardly process the words. Rather than rushing her ailing youngster to the operating pros, the in-law opted to detour to a pal's for second opinions. But we're wasting no time at all. Nothing's being lost here. It's just a 30-minute drive each way, and we'll get a clear idea of what's troubling the kid. The red SUV jolted along the rural lanes, hitting every rut. Miles felt queasy from the bumpy journey and turned even more ashen. I'm gonna throw up, the child murmured. Hang in there, buddy. We're almost at our stop. 10 minutes on, they pulled up outside a 2-level home adorned with intricate woodwork. Ellie stepped from the vehicle and approached the entrance. Wait in the car. This won't take long. Simone remained behind with her boy. Miles lay draped over her knees, his breaths coming in faint gasps. The temperature had obviously climbed further. From the window, Simone observed her mother-in-law chatting extensively with a sturdy lady wearing a vibrant scrub shirt. Estelle was describing the situation, waving her arms and gesturing at the SUV. 30 minutes ticked by. Simone was on the verge of hopping out to insist they head straight to the clinic when Ellie came back at last. What did Estelle conclude? Simone inquired, hoping for a reasonable update. She thinks it's likely nothing more than a minor tummy issue. Pop a tablet in him, and he'll bounce back ready for home. Home. They mentioned possible appendicitis. She understands that better. According to her, appendicitis brings the temp up to nearly 104 degrees, but his is sitting at 101. 3 degrees. Proof it's not that. Ellie fired up the engine and swung onto the highway. Yet rather than aiming for the medical center, she steered in the direction of town. Are we heading back to the house? Why bother with the hospital now that it's ruled out? Hold up, Simone nearly shouted. U-turn, straight to the ER. Keep your voice down in my vehicle. The older woman snapped back. "You're rattling me. Ellie, should anything go wrong with Miles, he'll pull through just fine. Slip him a dose, brew some chamomile at home, and we're done." Simone realized debate was pointless. Her mother-in-law showed zero signs of rerouting to the facility. She fished out her cell and dialed Jason, figuring he might sway his mom. No luck, his signal was dead. The plant's production areas jammed all mobile reception. Next, Simone rang emergency dispatch. "Hi, 911, send help. An ambulance. Kid possibly has appendicitis. What's your location?" Simone rattled off the home address they were approaching. "Response team en route. Brace for up to 40 minutes. Ellie overheard the exchange and frowned deeply. "What possessed you to summon paramedics?" "I explained we'd handle it domestically." "Since you wouldn't ferry an ill youngster to a professional." "I'm not dodging care. I'm shielding him from pointless tests. Modern physicians are just after your wallet." They arrived at the residence after 20 minutes. Miles could hardly support himself. Simone gripped his elbow, guiding him indoors. "Appreciate the lift," she told her mother-in-law. "Of course. Call a taxi next round. Spare folks your silly drama." Ellie peeled away, and Simone ushered her son inside the flat, settling him on the couch. He was utterly drained, moaning about intense discomfort. Rescue services showed up an hour afterward. The responder, a weary-looking fellow in his 20s, swiftly checked Miles over. "What took you so long?" he demanded curtly. "This boy's exhibiting classic acute appendicitis symptoms. You needed to get him here without delay." "We attempted to," Simone started to say, only for the medic to cut her off. "Move fast, we're rushing him to the OR." Miles got loaded onto the gurney in short order. En route to the center, Simone clasped his fingers as the attendant hooked up an IV painkiller. In the ER, the head nurse welcomed them and directed to the specialist's consult. Dr. Griffin, a 50-something with sharp focus, assessed the patient and promptly scheduled the procedure. Acute appendicitis confirmed. Any more delay and it'd turn to peritonitis. Lucky you made it when you did. They wheeled Miles off to surgery, leaving Simone to linger in the corridor. The procedure ran 2 hours. She roamed anxiously the entire stretch, too restless to perch. At last, Dr. Griffin emerged. "Procedure successful. Appendix out clean, no hitches. He'll recover nicely." Simone nearly broke down in gratitude. "May I visit? Anesthesia's still active. Consciousness in a couple hours." 1 day in post-op monitoring, then to a standard ward. As Miles dozed in recovery, Simone lingered in the cafeteria, sipping warm tea. Her fingers trembled from the ordeal. A bit more hesitation, and the outcome might have been disastrous. The near miss stemmed entirely from Ellie's inflexibility. Her conviction that her wisdom trumped the experts on her grandson's condition. Jason showed up late evening, looking drained and anxious. "How's our boy holding up?" he queried, embracing his spouse. "Surgery was smooth. Staff figures discharge in roughly a week. What a relief. Mom mentioned you visited Estelle, and she dismissed it as minor." Simone stared at her partner, stunned. "Jason, your mom nearly sparked a catastrophe." She flat out denied the hospital trip and squandered precious hours. Heading out to visit her friend? Well, she had only the noblest intentions. She didn't want the child to endure needless pain. Noble intentions. The physician warned that just a bit more delay, and it could have turned into peritonitis. Jason fell quiet, then murmured hesitantly, "My mom was concerned. Folks her generation occasionally slip up." Simone grasped that her spouse was about to defend his mother yet again. Even in this crisis, with their boy's well-being hanging in the balance, he refused to acknowledge Ellie's reckless behavior. The following day, Miles came to. He felt frail, yet the doctor noted his progress was solid. Simone hardly stepped away from his side, crashing on a fold-out bed. Jason showed up post-shift, lingering only briefly. Ellie stayed absent. On Saturday night, as Miles dozed, Simone stepped into the corridor for a breather. Two ladies were gossiping by the window, and one seemed recognizable. Peering nearer, Simone spotted Estelle, her in-law's companion, the very one they'd consulted over the clinic. I orchestrated the whole scheme deliberately, Estelle confided into her phone. Ellie schemed for weeks on ousting the daughter-in-law. She claims the boy's ailment served as the ideal cover to show Simone's a neglectful parent, that due to her negligence, the lad nearly perished. And surprisingly, she summoned the paramedics. Estelle went on. Ellie's raging these days. Her scheme backfired. Simone had heard plenty. She slipped back to the room without a sound and settled beside her dozing boy. It had all been orchestrated. Ellie intentionally stalled them, diverted them to her pal, and balked at the medical route. She'd gambled on Miles deteriorating further, so she could pin the blame on Simone for ignoring his needs. Her mother-in-law was prepared to endanger her own grandchild's vitality solely to shatter their household and alienate Jason. A chilling realization pierced Simone. He must have been aware of his mom's machinations. Else, what accounted for his apathy amid the turmoil? She gazed at her slumbering son. Miles appeared utterly vulnerable, bandaged across his belly. The surgeons had assured the procedure happened just in time, though hours more of postponement might have led to permanent damage. Right then, Simone reached an unyielding choice. She and Miles would go it alone. No Jason, no Ellie, no relatives ready to jeopardize a kid's welfare for their petty agendas. The flat was hers by right. The funds in the bank were hers too. Her position was secure, her earnings sufficient. She could provide her son with all he required. Jason might bunk with his mom, settle her bills, absorb her gripes, and cater to her caprices. But without them, Simone fished out her cell and texted her pal Naomi. Simone, Naomi, I require your assistance. Urgent. Naomi, what occurred? Simone, I'm initiating divorce proceedings, evicting my husband from our home. Details tomorrow. Naomi, understood. How can I assist? Simone, I need a reliable attorney and a lock specialist to swap the deadbolts. Naomi, consider it handled. Stay strong. Simone stowed her device and eyed her son once more. Miles wore a faint smile in his sleep, likely envisioning something pleasant, and she vowed to turn that vision real for them both. Come morning, a fresh chapter awaited, free from deceit, degradation, or folks eager to harm a child for their gains. Simone clasped Miles's hand firmly. The lad didn't stir, but his grip on her own tightened. Initially, though, she needed to weather the worst ordeal of her existence. Jason and Ellie lurked at the hospital's departure area. Simone felt startled. She hadn't shared the release details. We figured we'd swing by to collect you, Jason clarified, embracing his partner and child. How'd you learn about the discharge? I rang the ward, Ellie answered. I yearned to check on my grandson. Miles remained feeble from the surgery, shuffling with effort. The medics advised rest in bed back home and a checkup in 7 days. I've got the vehicle ready, the mother-in-law announced. I'll chauffeur you all. Appreciate it, Simone replied, helping her son into the rear. Miles looked ashen and voiced his fatigue. The trip lasted 30 minutes. Ellie navigated cautiously, dodging ruts and pools. How are you holding up? She inquired, glancing at her grandson via the mirror. Okay, the child whispered back. Abruptly, Miles felt queasy. He blanched first, clutching at his mom, before retching right there in the vehicle. Simone lunged for a sack, but she was seconds too slow. The upholstery and carpet were messed up. Ellie braked hard curbside. What's this mess? She yelped, swiveling. I mentioned he wasn't well, Simone stated, cleaning her son's lips with a tissue. It's typical post-op. Typical, the mother-in-law howled. He's ruined my whole ride. She hopped out and flung wide the rear door. I'm done carting your brat. He'll wreck everything. Out you go. Ellie seized Simone's arm, tugging to haul her from the car. Mom, stop, Jason muttered, his voice low and lacking any real force. I'm not stopping. This car's brand new, with those fancy leather seats. I didn't co-sign the loan for his sake. She jabbed a finger toward Miles, aiming to stir trouble. Ellie yanked roughly at Simone's arm. Clutching her ill boy, Simone had no strength to fight back. "Out!" the mother-in-law bellowed. "Jason!" Simone cried to her spouse. He sat up front, shoulders slumped, gazing blankly out the window without uttering a sound. Ellie dragged Simone and her frail son from the vehicle, dumping them beside the bustling freeway. Miles could hardly hold himself up, clinging to his mom. "Mom, it's chilly," he murmured softly. Simone swiftly shrugged off her coat and draped it over him. They lingered at the roadside as the crimson SUV sped off into the distance. 10 minutes passed before an ambulance, en route to an emergency in a close-by town, spotted them and pulled over. Noticing the lady and her ailing kid stranded on the expressway, the EMT halted. "What went down?" "We were heading back from the clinic. He started feeling worse during the drive. They just ditched us out here." "They abandoned a sick kid by the highway." The paramedic shook his head in disbelief. "Hop in. We'll drop you folks in town." As they traveled, Simone reached her breaking point. She'd ensure no one ever injured her boy like that again. Come morning, she'd initiate divorce proceedings and boot Jason from their place. No longer would toxic folks linger in their world, ready to wound Miles out of pure self-interest. "It'll all turn out fine soon," she breathed to her child. "Mommy swears." The following dawn, fresh from another hospital visit, Simone rose with sharpened resolve and steely intent. Miles dozed peacefully in his bedroom, mending after the surgery. Jason had slipped out for his job well before sunrise, skipping any attempt to address the prior evening's mess. Simone grabbed her cell and dialed Antoine Gibson, a buddy from her university days. They'd shared classes in linguistics back then, though he'd switched to law after sophomore year. These days, Antoine practiced at a top-tier outfit, focusing on domestic disputes. "Simone, didn't expect to hear from you. Everything all right?" "Not even close, Antoine. I could use your advice. I'm pushing for a split." "For real. I figured things were solid between you two. Want to grab coffee and hash it out? It needs to happen now. Today, if possible." "No problem. Swing by the office in roughly 2 hours." Simone entrusted Miles to the elderly neighbor, who frequently pitched in with the kid. He remained feeble and napped often, yet the physicians assured her progress was steady. The legal practice sat in the city center, housed in a charming historic structure. Antoine welcomed her into a roomy workspace with views of the central plaza. "Lay it all out for me," he urged, guiding her to a plush seat. Simone detailed everything, from the phone and auto purchases to the roadside ordeal. Antoine paid close attention, interjecting with pointed queries now and then. "Got it," he concluded at last. "Let's dissect this step by step. The lease on the apartment. Who's listed?" "Just me. It came from my grandma 3 years back." "Excellent. Housing won't be an issue. Jason's access as a spouse ends with the separation." "How soon could we remove him?" "Pretty quick with solid reasons, and we've got them. Stranding an unwell child on a roadway. That's grave." Antoine fetched a legal pad and began jotting details. "Regarding the auto financing, did you co-sign?" "Nope. He managed every bit solo." "So the lender can't come after you, but we'll verify the paperwork. If he listed you without approval, that's fraud." "Any way to tackle this debt?" "Definitely. Show no agreement existed, and the institution reevaluates. Without backup, Jason may struggle with the installments." It's a strategy began to form in Simone's thoughts. Not spiteful or punitive, but equitable and by the book. "What's my first move?" "We'll compile the files, medical proof of the boy's health, property deed, every finance record. After that, submit the dissolution request and removal order." Timeline: with compelling cause, about a month to 6 weeks, though urgency from misconduct can speed it up. Antoine met her gaze steadily. "Simone, you certain? Ending a marriage is no small thing." "Dead certain, what they put Miles through. I can't rely on them anymore." Fair enough, we move forward then. They set a follow-up for the next day, papers in hand. Simone headed back feeling unburdened at last. She was claiming control. Miles stirred and requested a meal. Simone whipped up a gentle broth per the expert's guidance. Though still enervated, the lad's hunger had returned. "Mom, when's Jason Dad getting back?" "Not sure, honey. He's buried in work, and Grandma Ellie's visits are done." "Why do you want to know?" "I hope he doesn't. He's nasty." Simone caressed her boy's hair. Kids sense deceit and meanness sharper than grown-ups ever do. Jason showed up late that evening, face drawn and weary. He offered scant acknowledgement. At the table, he stayed mum. Dodging her stare, Jason chatted briefly with his spouse. "How's Miles doing?" he inquired at last, feeling improved. The physician reported that the healing process was progressing smoothly. Simone anticipated an apology from him regarding the previous day's events, or perhaps some form of clarification. Yet Jason stayed quiet, acting as though the incident never occurred. "Jason, we must discuss this," she insisted. "Discuss what exactly?" "What took place yesterday?" He glanced upward, locking eyes with her in evident annoyance. Mom expressed her regrets. She admitted getting anxious over the vehicle. She said sorry to me personally. "Fine, but she instructed me to pass along the message to you." "And what's your take on the matter?" Jason rose from his seat at the table and began gathering the plates and utensils. "I believe it's unnecessary to blow it out of proportion. The automobile is practically fresh off the lot." "Is that so?" Mom's clearly distressed. "Jason, she abandoned an ill youngster along the roadside." "She didn't abandon him at all. She merely removed him from the vehicle." "It was only a short distance outside town, roughly 6 miles along the interstate, with a kid fresh out of an operation." "So what now? It's in the past, and that's that. Miles is okay." "No, for me, it's far from resolved. This is only the start." "I'm initiating divorce proceedings," she stated evenly. Jason halted abruptly, still holding the tableware. "What did you say?" "You heard right." "Over yesterday's fiasco, Simone. Have you lost your mind?" "I'm completely rational, and I refuse to share a home with a man who fails to safeguard his loved ones." "I do safeguard them. I simply can't justify clashing with my mother over trivialities." "Trivialities? Jason, your mother nearly inflicted grave harm on Miles." "She might have, but fortunately she didn't. It all turned out all right." "No, it hasn't turned out all right for me. This is just the beginning." Jason deposited the items into the basin and faced his wife. "Simone, let's avoid hasty decisions. Take time to reflect." "I've already reflected thoroughly." "And consider the residents, the debts we've taken on. I co-signed for Mom's vehicle." "That's on you to handle." "The residence isn't connected to you in any way." Jason's face drained of color. "So you're essentially evicting me." "Precisely. And your living arrangements from here on aren't my concern. Feel free to move in with your mother." Their dispute dragged on extensively, but Simone held firm. Jason attempted to sway her, issued warnings, vowed to reform. Yet she regarded him with detached composure, her thoughts already shifting to the upcoming day's agenda. The following day, as Jason headed to his job, Simone visited Antoine carrying the paperwork. The attorney examined the materials meticulously. "Impeccable," he remarked. "The property belongs solely to you. No contest there. The debt arrangement is straightforward, too. Your name doesn't appear on the agreement as a co-signer, so the lender has no claim on your funds." They truly can't. Moreover, we could lodge a formal grievance against the institution for erroneously listing you as a surety. That might create complications for Jason. Naturally, the lender would insist on reevaluating the borrowing conditions right away. And absent a co-signer, the borrowing cost would surge by 50%. Antoine proceeded to compile the necessary filings for the legal proceedings. Simone endorsed the separation request and the order to remove Jason from the premises. Now comes the intriguing aspect, the attorney noted. Do you possess any details on your mother-in-law's earnings or her lifestyle? Why do you ask? If she's securing loans, she must declare a specific income level. Yet retail clerks like her earn modestly. Perhaps there's unreported revenue involved. Simone pondered this. Indeed, how had Ellie afforded those borrowings? A retail worker's pay of around $2,000 monthly, with the auto installment at $250 on top of her various outlays. I'll consult an acquaintance, she replied, her colleague at the same retail outlet. That evening, Simone phoned Naomi and requested intel on Ellie's employment. Her pal agreed to dig into the specifics. Jason returned home tardily, brimming with hostility. Have you truly resolved to oust me? He demanded right at the entrance. And you're set on depriving Miles of his dad. Miles has a natural father. Plus, you proved ready to side against your own boy for your mother's sake. I didn't side against anybody. You stayed silent while she stranded a vulnerable child by the roadside. I had no idea her intentions. You suspected, yet said nothing. That's akin to aiding and abetting. Jason roamed the space restlessly, puffing on a cigarette with agitation. Abruptly, he paused and eyed his partner. All right then, if you're pushing for separation, I'll counter with my own moves. Say, pursuing alimony for Miles. Simone offered a scornful grin. He's not your natural child. You'd only qualify for alimony had you formally adopted him. Too late for that. Post-separation, the judge won't permit adoption sans the parents' approval. Jason grasped his defeat. He held zero claim to Miles, no stake in the property, not a single possession in that dwelling. He swore under his breath, snatched his luggage, and departed for his mother's place. Simone experienced profound ease. At long last, tranquility filled the home. Miles mended swiftly, engaging in his building toys and chuckling once more. However, the truly captivating developments lay ahead. 14 days onward, Simone contacted the retail network's security line. Good morning, I'd like to alert you to discrepancies at one of your outlets. I'm all ears. Outlet 47. The clerk named Ellie routinely pilfers merchandise, and the cashier takes money from the till. The supervisor, Mr. Reynolds, covers for her. What makes you think that? I'm employed in the adjacent structure and frequent that shop. I've often witnessed her slipping items into her purse without ringing them up. Coworkers mention the missing funds. We appreciate the tip. An inquiry will follow. I'd like to stay unnamed. Naturally, your identity won't surface in any records. Simone ended the call feeling a weight lifted, her obligation met. Righteousness needed to win out. She lodged a formal grievance with the bank over her wrongful addition to the security agreement. The lender responded swiftly, insisting Jason settle the full debt right away or secure a fresh surety. Jason freaked out. He dialed Simone repeatedly, begging for mercy. Yet she stood firm. That's on you, she replied evenly. Handle it on your own. Ellie sought fresh financing to clear the prior balance, but lenders rejected her. A retail worker's pay simply didn't cut it. The store inspection hit without warning. Early that day, executives from corporate showed up, calling for a full examination. Simone learned of it through Naomi, whose acquaintance toiled at the same outlet. Picture the chaos, her pal recounted. They scrutinized every checkout, the stockroom, the paperwork, and uncovered deficits. The total, more than $10,000 in funds and goods across the prior 6 months. They let go of everyone implicated. Supervisor Reynolds got the boot. Your ex-mother-in-law lost her position as well. Word is, authorities could bring charges. Simone savored the outcome. Ellie had gotten her comeuppance. Yet the real twist unfolded a month on. One night, a rap came at the entrance. Simone answered to find Jason and Ellie there. They appeared unkempt and bewildered. May we enter? Jason inquired. Nope, Simone shot back. We must discuss about what? Mom got terminated. Rumors say she pilfered cash. It's false. She toiled faithfully. Simone eyed Ellie. The older woman stared at the floor. Her prior hostility had vanished. "She can demonstrate that before a judge," Simone stated resolutely. "Ellie, might I express regret to Miles?" "Too late now. I truly didn't intend harm. I simply panicked over the vehicle and they repossessed it," Jason explained, gesturing. "The lender wants the complete loan sum up front. We lack the resources. Such a pity. Simone, would you step in as surety? I'm no longer tied to it. The bank verified as much. Still, we're kin. That ended when you abandoned my boy on the roadside." And that evening, upon heading back to their studio flat, they froze in shock at the scene. Simone got the details the following day from the neighbor. "Can you fathom it?" the lady shared. They reached the doorway, and luggage sat piled up. Apparently, officers had removed them from the residence and swapped the keys. How could that occur? The enforcers arrived bearing the eviction notice. Your Jason pushed back, but reviewing the papers, he realized resistance was futile. And their next stop. They rented a space in a budget inn. No employment means no roof. Jason's factory wages barely covered basics. It wouldn't stretch to housing. Simone experienced a subtle triumph. Fairness had prevailed. Miles soon put Jason and Ellie from his mind. He focused on the fresh toy kit his mom procured. The child crafted bots and dreamed up monikers for them. Simone stayed occupied too. Her role brought steady earnings. Free from Jason's debt burdens, existence flowed smoother. After 3 months, a spot opened at an elite global academy. The pay doubled, with perks and chances for overseas education. "Mom, are we wealthy now?" Miles wondered upon hearing of the position. "Not exactly, kiddo, but we're secure." "What about Dad Jason and Nana Ellie? Are they secure?" "No, they're struggling these days. They bear the blame for their choices. Indeed, little one. Actions carry consequences." Miles agreed and dove back into his kit. He tackled an intricate spaceship replica. Simone gazed at her child, reflecting on her wise decision to muster the resolve for transformation. At present, Miles matured amid integrity and equity, shielded from those intent on injury. 6 months in, Simone chanced upon Jason and Ellie at the medical center. She brought Miles for a follow-up with the doctor to assess the surgical mark's recovery. Jason seemed years older in that span. Streaks of silver threaded his locks, and his features bore deep wear. He perched in the corridor beside his mom, awaiting the counselor's session. Ellie fared poorer still. She clutched a walking stick and labored for breath. The job loss and legal battles had evidently ravaged her well-being. Miles spotted them initially. "Mom," he murmured, ducking behind her. "It's those two." "Yes, dear, no worries, we'll simply pass by." But Jason noticed. He rose and advanced a tentative stride. As they approached, Simone Miles came to a halt. "Hi, Jason. How are you and your boy doing health-wise?" "All good here," he replied. "And you?" Jason dropped his eyes. "My mom's not well, her blood pressure's spiking, and her heart's giving out." "I'm truly sorry, Simone. Would it be okay if I spent some time with Miles?" Simone glanced down at her child. The kid clutched her fingers firmly and gave a firm shake of his head. "I don't want that," Miles murmured softly. "You heard what he said," Simone told Jason. "But I was basically his dad." "Real dads don't turn their backs on their kids." Jason longed to argue further, but Ellie lightly tugged at his arm. "Come on, Jason. They're paging us now." They made their way into the physician's room as Simone and Miles proceeded to the specialist. "Mom, do you feel bad for them?" the child inquired while they walked. "No, honey, I'm not glad about their troubles, but I don't feel sympathy for them. They picked their road, and we picked ours." "Right, and I believe we made the smart choice." Miles bobbed his head and grinned. "I love how things are for us." "So do I, darling." The specialist checked over the boy and nodded approvingly at the outcome. The wound had mended flawlessly without any issues. "A robust, vigorous young one," the doctor noted. "Put that procedure out of your mind. Just enjoy a regular routine." Exiting the medical center, Simone sensed a weight lifted, a calm settling in. Their darkest chapter was finally over. Brighter days were on the horizon. Miles skipped along next to her, excitedly chatting about the fresh robot he planned to assemble back home. "Guess what, Mom? I've come up with a name for it." "Tell me." "Justice. It'll guard the innocent from the wicked." Simone beamed. Her little one was developing solid ideas about good and evil. Nothing mattered more than that. They boarded the bus and returned to their snug flat, a safe haven where harm couldn't reach them anymore, where they could relax, pursue their goals, nurture the child, and savor simple joys. Meanwhile, out at that roadside inn on the city's edge, Jason and Ellie were facing the consequences of their choices. Each person ended up with exactly what was coming to them. True fairness had prevailed. Enjoyed the tale. What town are you tuning in from? Drop a note in the comments. Maybe we can connect there. If the story resonated, show some love with a super thanks to help me share more tales like this one. Your kind gestures mean the world. Can't wait to hear your thoughts below. Check out the 2 fresh personal journeys popping up on screen. They're ones I really suggest. My channel's packed with even more. Hit subscribe so you don't miss out. Catch you in the upcoming narrative. Warm regards and appreciation.